SAB's got its roots in downtown dusty Johannesburg, circa 1895, when a guy called Charles Glass brews the first Castle beer at the Castle Brewery. So is the Charles Glass half full or half empty? Following the whopping $100 billion takeover of SABMiller, Anheuser-Busch InBev now sells beers in times of downgrades as two of the biggest economies in the Sub-Saharan Africa go through the motions of economic and sovereign ratings downgrades. Of course, the African continent not nearly as attractive a place to be doing business as it was perhaps 3, maybe even 4 years ago. This is the MoneyMakers. I'm Bruce Whitfield, and tonight joined again by Ricardo Tadeu, who is the zone president for Africa at AB InBev and SAB, as we look at Africa as a growth market. I mean, this is the reason you did this deal, or Carlos Brito, your boss, did the deal. This great opportunity of the African continent, thirsty for beer, but the growth potential being absolutely enormous.
Yeah, the potential is so big. I mean, very few people know, but when you think about per capita consumptions, in average developing countries, they stay in a range of 45 to 70 liters per year in terms of consumption. Most of the countries we operate in Africa, they are at 11, 9, 10. So there's a
clear beer consumption, bottled beer,
the beer
as we know from the bottle store, not traditional beers.
Not traditional beers. And when you think about, there's lots of informal alcohol consumption, and the opportunity to formalize that consumption and really present safer options and real beer to consumers, I think this is great. And we never think, you just mentioned like 2-3 years in terms of attractiveness, but when you think about 20-30 years, which is the time frame that we operate, I mean, you'll never see the same convergence of positive demographics. We'll have more people getting into legal drinking age, I mean, than anywhere else in the world. I mean, we expect to have economies growing in a faster pace than the world's average. So we see everything coming together. We see a very relevant population and a very low participation of our category. So the challenge here in Africa, especially in countries outside South Africa, which is a more sophisticated market, is it's really to groom those markets and really make them.
Do you promote local beers in local markets, or do you take your flagship brands and put and use Hollywood movies to sell the brands? Because status is an interesting thing, but the premiumization of the beer market, holding the bottle so the label shows when you're drinking out in public. You want to be seen to be consuming. If you're a fan of of the United States, you might want to be seen to be consuming Budweiser. If you're a fan of Europe and you like a slightly stronger beer, you might want to be going for a Stella. How are you going to segment this massive opportunity?
The way we've been working so far, it's a combination of both. Most markets, they have a very strong local brands. For example, Hero and Trophy in Nigeria. Kilimanjaro and Tanzania. So these local brands are always very important, and they will be the base of the market. But at the same time, we have imported brands. For example, we have the presence of Castle. I don't know if many people know about it, but Castle Light, Carling, they have a relevant presence already in many of those African markets. We can bring other brands from our international portfolio, but of course we don't want also to overcrowd those markets with brands. We prefer much more to nurture the brands that we currently have, understand a little bit our portfolio, not only in the brands part, but also in terms of the packaging offerings that we have, making sure that our capacities are aligned to allow us to grow in those markets. So it's like taking care and having them moving up.
You've been in the job for less than 6 months. Have you done much traveling across these new markets? Because being based for most of your career in Latin America, this is brand new.
Yes, no, I've been to 10 countries already, and some of them more than once or twice. And I mean, it's been a quite interesting experience and extremely exciting. I mean, imagine that you've been in this business and you can go to places where you just see opportunities and that you feel that you know how to drive the category because experiences that you've seen before, together with local knowledge. I mean, it's something that it's very positive for someone from our industry be working here.
Isn't there a risk that AB InBev has thrown something of the baby out with the bathwater? So many of the senior management team of SABMiller across the globe didn't make it into the upper echelons of Carlos Brito's global team. The Africa team, for example, senior managers have either left or are leaving.
No, actually, the South
soon.
Africa, the SAB country president replaced me in Mexico.
Okay.
So I mean, it was more or less a swap there. We actually have in the South African business, for example, we have 5 expats only that came from AB InBev, which is less than 0.1% of the. So we are basically operating with local. We didn't bring anyone new into the other countries. We are basically using the local people. And
how then do you supplant an AB InBev culture, which is a little less generous in terms of you've got a reputation of being much more careful with money than SAB did, for example. You run a much tighter ship. You've got the lowest cost beer production in the world, which efficiency is one of the key words, trademarks of AB InBev. How do you implant that then on a culture which wasn't as fastidious?
You know, sometimes I read about this, and I just think that some things are just basically myths. People talk about a lot about ZBB and things like that. And when we came and we compared policies, we saw that 95% were already aligned. I mean, that vision that for some reason SAB wasn't as careful with money, I just don't.
They were careful.
They
were careful, but you got a reputation for being more careful.
Yeah, but I mean, reputations are one thing, and realities are different things. I think that there are lots of processes, and the fact that SABMiller had this footprint in Africa made them actually much smarter in developing products, affordable products than we were, and so we are learning this. For example. Making beer out of sorghum or cassava is something that was not part of AB InBev's skill set, and now we are being able to do that in different places, for example.
And it's pretty good beer.
No, it is. So it's a great thing. So I just gave you an example. The other example is we have what we call here a CIC, where we have the orders taken, centralized, and we didn't have in any operation of AB InBev. But also we are bringing some practices from some back office centralizations that SABMiller had not came into that direction. So I think that the great thing is getting the best of each other and implementing the great things.
The prize is Castell. SABMiller had the right of first refusal with the Castell family. If the Castell family ever wanted to sell their brewing operations, they've almost got like Francophone Africa, and SABMiller's got the rest almost. And to get Castell would give a proper African footprint. Do you retain that right of first refusal? Did that pass over to you as well?
Yeah, every right that SABMiller had at the time, it's still the same with AB InBev. Okay. I mean, the important thing is that we have a great relationship with them. They're good partners, but we are focusing much more right now, especially, I mean, if so many things to do at this point.
You couldn't really do another merger, could you?
Yes, what we're focusing on in all those countries that we are to get, and really, hopefully we can bring that growth that everybody expects from Africa.
How are your customers going to notice any difference at all? I mean, their beer, as long as it's in the bottle and it's cold and it's in the fridge and it's available at the time and the place they want it, that's all they really care about.
That's a great question.
Will they see any difference?
I think, where would we want to really make a difference? First, I think that in terms of innovation and choice of brands and packs, so alternatives to explore new occasions, right? So I think that in terms of portfolio, if you take a look, for example, in our portfolio today, we miss lower ABV, alcohol content, lower ABV in our beer. So we want to explore that part, which is from 0 to 3.5%. I think we miss a non-alcohol beer here in South Africa. It's locally produced, and this is something that we're going to work on. But more than that, one thing that I really noticed here is, I think that when you go to townships, you see different trading scenarios than, for example, when you go into more affluent areas. I think we really can improve and enhance the quality of
the beer distribution,
the beer environment.
Yeah, the history of beer distribution is fraught with politics and complexity and apartheid, particularly in South Africa, for example, and the idea of taking beer to distribution centres and people coming with wheelbarrows and collecting it and taking it into the shebeens. There's been an effort to formalise the tavern experience. Many people operate illegal taverns, and there are big issues in those areas. I mean, you're going to have to work with the authorities, no doubt, in order to legalise, formalise and improve the experience of consumption as well.
Yes, but I mean, my perception is that before discussing anything regarding to formalization, we have to make sure that the already licensed ones, they are operating very properly. I think that with adequate lighting, being a gender-friendly environment with female restrooms and security, and people feel safe in those environments. I do think that, I mean, you asked what would be the difference, what our customer can see the difference. I hope that they can see a much more pronounced investments in township taverns to try to bring the same consumption experience that we have in the more affluent areas.
This is going to sound like a joke. It's not. Ricardo Tadeu walks into a bar. What does he order?
Well, today it's definitely a Castle Light draft. I mean, I just love it.
You've got to say that.
Yeah.
That's going to upset your colleagues, isn't it? At Corona and at
But
Stella
they
and at
know
Budweiser. They understand the game.
They know that already. Yes.
They understand the game. When is Budweiser going to take on Guinness in Nigeria? Guinness, Guinness, I think Nigeria is the biggest market for Guinness outside of Ireland. I think that's the legend
I think
anyway.
Africa in general is important for the Guinness brand. And to be quite honest, I'm not sure if Budweiser and Guinness, they play with the same consumers, because the liquid profiles, yes, we have already Castle Milk Stout there. We had some local brands which are also play into that stout area. So definitely, but to just give you one example of different liquids that we have to develop and keep pushing to try to expand our business. Yes.
Okay, I'm looking
I'm
forward.
just not sure if Budweiser.
I'm just not sure. It's a different kind of drink. Ricardo Tadeu, nice to see you. Thank you very much for coming in. Ricardo Tadeu is the new zone president for Africa at AB InBev and SAB. Big plans to improve the beer drinking experience, the consumer experience, and also to diversify brand portfolios. But don't expect a flood of global brands coming to your local tavern or your local bar in a hurry. They're going to do this slowly and steadily, and before you know it, they'll all be there in time, no doubt. Thank you for watching the MoneyMakers this evening. Until next time, bye-bye.